It began with a sunrise. July 9, 2014. In Wyoming's Wind River Range, the granite spires of Mt. Hooker pierced the sky with solemn indifference. At 8:04 a.m., 39-year-old Ethan Caldwell and his 13-year-old daughter, Sky, checked in at the Big Sandy trailhead with a forest ranger. They smiled for a quick photo taken by another hiker. Then, they disappeared. Ethan was a seasoned climber, a former park ranger who knew the terrain. Sky was quiet, observant, and serious for her age, the kind of girl who memorized star charts for fun and packed extra batteries without being told. They were planning a 5-day trek through Hooker's North Cirque and intended to summit the peak via the technical East Face route. But neither of them were ever seen again. Their names would be carved into granite long before anyone knew why. When Ethan's ex-wife, Melissa Ward, reported them missing on July 14th, she sounded more annoyed than worried. Ethan had pulled stunts before, she told the sheriff. Gone off-grid. Taken Sky without proper notice. He was unpredictable. But as hours became days, irritation turned to dread. Search and rescue teams fanned out across the rugged peaks. Helicopters scanned the terrain. Volunteers on foot explored every basin and switchback. Not a shred of evidence emerged. No tent. No gear. No dropped items. It was like they'd evaporated into the high-altitude air. Some assumed an accident. A fall. A slip. Others whispered darker theories. Had Ethan staged a disappearance? Had something happened between them? Rumors spread like alpine wildfire. But one thing became clear, this was no ordinary wilderness case. Mt. Hooker isn't for the faint of heart. Rising to 12,504 feet, it towers above sheer cliffs and glacier-cut valleys. Its east face is notorious, 1,800 feet of nearly vertical granite. Climbing it requires ropes, anchors, courage, and absolute precision. Climbers die here. Some never come back. Yet Ethan had climbed it 3 times before. He taught Sky basic belaying and ice techniques in their backyard outside Bozeman. According to friends, they shared a bond built on solitude and survival. He didn't just want her to learn, one neighbor recalled. He wanted her to inherit his spirit. Had that spirit gone too far? 2 weeks after the disappearance, a Forest Service intern named Jasper found a crumpled notebook half buried in a crevice near Shadow Lake, a day's hike from Hooker. Inside were Ethan's rough sketches of the mountain. There were route diagrams, gear checklists, and on the last legible page, storm expected Tuesday. If we don't return by Thursday, we'll try the south descent. Dated, July 10th. But the weather had cleared on the 11th. That detail unnerved authorities. Had Ethan misjudged the forecast? Or had something else forced a sudden change of plan? By late August, the official search was scaled back. Melissa Ward, now surrounded by reporters, appeared on the local news and called her ex-husband a reckless narcissist who put ego before safety. Yet Ethan's younger brother, Caleb, painted a different picture. He was methodical. He wouldn't have exposed Sky to something he couldn't handle. If anything happened up there, it wasn't an accident. That comment raised eyebrows. Especially when a family friend anonymously tipped off the sheriff that Ethan had been asking strange questions before the trip. Questions about untraceable satellite phones. About how long it takes a body to decay in high alpine conditions. What was he planning? It would take 11 years to find the first real clue. August 3, 2025. A group of climbers from the University of Utah were scaling a remote section of Hooker's southwest side when one noticed something odd near a ledge, a faded orange tent flattened by snowmelt. Inside, 2 sleeping bags, a rusted cooking pot, and a child's drawing of a moonlit cliff. It had Sky's name written on the back. The world changed overnight. Forensics dated the campsite to mid-July, 2014. The tent was well-pitched, anchored into a narrow rock shelf barely wide enough for 2 people. Not visible from standard routes. Food wrappers and boot prints suggested they had stayed multiple nights. But there was something else, a long coil of climbing rope, frayed and snapped at the end. The cut wasn't clean. It was torn, as if tension had ripped it apart. No bones were found. no remains. Once the discovery hit the news, online sleuths exploded with speculation. Reddit threads ballooned with thousands of comments. Was it foul play? Suicide pact? A tragic accident? Had Ethan led Sky to her death? One post gained traction, a grainy trail cam photo from 2016 showing what looked like two figures, an adult and child, on a ridge 5 miles from the new site. The timestamp was 2:17 a.m. Could they have survived? Or was someone else watching? Ethan's brother re-emerged. Now visibly older, with gray streaks in his beard, Caleb held a quiet press conference. There are things I didn't share in 2014. Ethan called me from Lander before the trip. He said, if anything happens, tell Sky I'm sorry about the cabin. When pressed, Caleb explained that Ethan had inherited a small, remote cabin from their grandfather, a place none of the family had visited in decades. Located near the Wyoming-Idaho border, it was isolated, overgrown, and possibly forgotten. Search crews moved fast. They found the cabin 2 weeks later. But what they found inside would rewrite everything. The door had been forced open long ago. Moss crept through the floorboards. Inside, under a loose plank, officers found a waterproof container. Inside, Polaroid photos. Ethan and Sky. Climbing. Laughing. Alive. Dated July 20th. 6 days after the last journal entry. They had survived. But where did they go next? Among the Polaroids, investigators found a note. Scrawled in Ethan's handwriting. We're being followed. Keep moving. No fires. No noise. What was initially a missing persons case now had the makings of a survival story, and possibly a manhunt. FBI profiler Marcy Lynn joined the reopened case. Her expertise lay in domestic disappearances with criminal elements. Her early assessment was chilling. If Ethan believed he and his daughter were being pursued, there's a reason. Whether that reason was grounded in fact or fear remains unknown. But Ethan had no known enemies. No debts. No criminal record. No reason to flee. Unless there was something in his past he never told anyone. In the cabin's root cellar, hidden beneath a rotted tarp and sealed by heavy rocks, investigators found something else, 2 sets of footprints embedded in the hardened earth. One adult-sized. One small, barefoot. And a single word carved into the wall, listen. No one could say who left it. Or who it was meant for. The cabin's deed history revealed a disturbing connection. Before Ethan's grandfather owned it, the property belonged to a man named Lyle Doyle, a Cold War-era communications contractor who allegedly went missing in 1972 while under federal investigation. His files were never released. Tucked into an old ammunition box in the attic was a folded topographical map of the Wind River Range. But this wasn't a climber's map. It was marked with hand-drawn circles, symbols, and coded notations. One was dated July 2014. Another, hooker signal, cut off. A man named Royce Denton came forward. A veteran solo hiker, Royce claimed he passed a man and young girl near Pyramid Peak on July 18, 2014. The man looked haggard. The girl kept glancing back over her shoulder. Like she expected someone to follow. Royce assumed they were another lost pair. Until he saw their faces again on TV. Caleb handed over one more item, an old ham radio Ethan had stashed in his garage. He claimed it hadn't worked in years. But when technicians restored it, they discovered a series of logged frequencies. Several were encrypted. One repeated a phrase on loop. July 23rd. Bridgewater. Bring her home. There is no town or landmark called Bridgewater in the region. But analysts found a half-collapsed bridge near Green River Canyon with graffiti dated 2014. E&S made it. Was it a meeting point? An escape route? Or a grave marker? Ethan's ex-wife Melissa appeared again on the local news, this time visibly shaken. I used to think he was just selfish. But what if he was protecting her from something? And I just didn't believe him. A retired intelligence analyst, Leon Margate, contacted the FBI. He had worked on a now-defunct surveillance initiative in the early 2000s called Project Echo Drift. One of its test zones, the Wind River Range, and Mt. Hooker had been flagged. In 2015, a private military contractor conducted an unrelated drone exercise over Wyoming. An archived thermal image from July 21 showed 2 heat signatures along a ridge above Grave Lake. One human, one smaller, and a third signature, larger, upright, stationary for over 4 hours. No one reported being in the area. Another shelter was found. A crude lean-to built from logs and tarp on the far side of Grave Lake. Inside, a melted candle, a whittled wooden figure of a girl, and a torn sleeping bag. DNA confirmed it belonged to Sky. Downstream, water samples showed trace amounts of chlorpromazine, a strong sedative often used in psych hospitals. Impossible to find in wilderness naturally. Someone had been drugging the water source. A retired park ranger, Max Tillis, contacted authorities. In 2014, he received anonymous reports of transmissions and strange lights near the Hooker backwoods. He never filed the report. I thought it was kids messing around. Now, maybe not. In 2019, a waitress in Cody, Wyoming reported serving a teenage girl who fit Sky's description exactly. She paid in exact change. Ordered nothing but water. Before leaving, she dropped a note in the bathroom, "Tell him I remember." Based on journal fragments, investigators built a potential timeline. Sky had seen something on the mountain, a light that moved like no drone or headlamp. She drew it in her notebook, an eye in the sky. Ethan had seen it too. And that was when the tone of his entries changed. The ham radio emitted a single save broadcast. Static. Breathing. A man's voice, "Not alone, they've been watching. Sky, don't talk. Don't run." A cash box was uncovered north of the cabin, 2 MSREs, an emergency flare, and a sealed note. "She's not safe near the water. Don't let them find her again." Signed, E. The FBI discovered someone had been deleting drone footage, altering timestamps, and redirecting SAR teams in 2014. Internal suspicion pointed to a single name, Field Officer Janet Royce, since relocated to Alaska. Her last assignment? Lander, Wyoming. In a derelict shed at the edge of the Wind River Reservation, a freezer was found locked tight. Inside, nothing. But thermal scans showed it had held something heavy until 2018. The floor beneath was stained with an oily residue. A voicemail recovered from an unlisted burner phone contained only a few words, whispered. "Don't come back. They live in the cliffs." The sedative found in the water matched a batch from a shuttered VA hospital in Montana. Batch code B45. Someone had moved it across state lines. Flashbacks reconstructed via journal entries. Ethan and Sky had descended the east face, deviating from the known route. They set camp in a ravine. Heard footsteps at night. Saw lights. Sky stopped talking. Recovered in a thermos sealed with wax, a child's sketch of 2 people running from a shadow. One tall. One small. The shadow had no face. An encoded message in the map symbols revealed chilling clarity. If one is taken, other must stay hidden. Had Ethan sacrificed himself to save her? A partially scorched notebook was found at the base of Hooker. One legible line. They want the girl. In 2016, a cell tower in Pinedale, Wyoming pinged a signal from Ethan's prepaid phone for 4 seconds. Then silence. Caleb produced a cassette tape from the 1980s, Ethan as a boy, interviewing their grandfather about the cabin. "Sometimes the wrong people listen to the right frequencies," the old man said. In 2026, a package arrived at a Wyoming news station. Inside, a flash drive. No return address. Contents, 1 photo. Sky, in a coat too big for her, standing near a payphone. Holding a newspaper from 2023. A derelict repeater tower near the Idaho border was traced to Project Echo Drift. Inside, signs of habitation. Small shoes. A drawing of a mountain and the word Dad. Days after turning over the tape, Caleb vanished. His car was found abandoned in Yellowstone. Engine warm. Driver's door open. No signs of a struggle. FBI profiler Lynn went dark. Her final message to a colleague read, "We're not investigating a manhunt. We're walking into something built to disappear people." Beneath Mt. Hooker is a rarely mapped cave system. Volunteers began exploring in 2027. They found bones. But not human. Chapter 44, The Whisper Channel. Ham radio hobbyists discovered a repeating frequency active only between 3:11 and 3:14 a.m. A child's voice recites coordinates. They lead to nowhere. Until July 9th. Then they point to Hooker. A climbing group found a carving above a sheer cliff, an eye within a triangle. Below it, still watching. Satellite scans picked up a flare launched from the side of Hooker on July 9, 2027, exactly 13 years to the day. There was no one registered to be there. Delivered to the Bozeman Public Library in a sealed envelope. I made it out. Dad didn't. They still listen. I stay quiet. But I remember. Declassified in 2028. From the Department of Energy. Project Echo Drift. Purpose, high-altitude psychological field testing. Test subject number 113, male. Former park ranger. Child involved. A woman in her 20s appears in Denver. She won't say her name. But DNA matches. Sky Caldwell. She refuses interviews. But draws obsessively. The same mountain. The same shadow. Mt. Hooker remained silent. No charges. No closure. No body. But sometimes, climbers still report strange signals. A whisper through static. Still here. Still watching. And somewhere, far below the summit, a child's drawing flutters in the wind. Waiting to be found.